Greetings, audience. How are you? Welcome to another episode of Chomp Talk. I'm Vincent Solis, college president for Brazosport College. Thank you for joining us today. We have got a really special show where we are going to be talking to our guests about all things veterans related at Brazosport College. This is an extremely important program to us, and we serve those that have served our country. So we're excited about having Dr. Mitch Seal and Miss Tanisha Millender, who both work with our veterans very closely in different capacities and in different programs. So Dr. Seal and Tanisha, welcome to Chomp Talk, where we navigate the waters of knowledge, information, and all things Brazosport College related. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So Dean Seal and Tanisha, let's get started with some general questions. Both of you not only work in serving our veterans, but you're both veterans yourselves. You've both served our country. Thank you so much for your service and your commitment. You had, I think, Dr. Seal, you had a long tenure in the military. You were retired, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then Tanisha, you also did some time in serving in the Army, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. So, Mitch, give us a little bit about your background and in the service. You were in the Navy.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about your MOS for the viewing audience. That's your military occupational service, and that's what designates you. That's basically your job scope. So, Dean Seal, talk to us a little bit about what you did in the Navy.
Well, I was probably the last person that you would ever think would join the military. I was a music student at the University of Oregon, going to be a rock star, and didn't do too well in my classes and ran out of money. And fortunately, the Navy band was hiring. So I enlisted, auditioned for and enlisted into the Navy band, and was going to do one tour and get out. And then about 2 years into it, I hit a drunk driver, and that ended my marching career because I couldn't carry the weight of a drum. And I figured, I did like the Navy, so what else is out there? And I pursued a commissioning program, and then I was able to take advantage of a scholarship and commission into the United States Navy Nurse Corps and pursued the education and training pathway in that career field. Ended up serving a total of 25 years.
So you retired Navy?
Yes, sir. I retired in 2015 as a commander in the Navy Nurse Corps, and then DOD bribed me back in, and I was a senior executive serving the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs, again as a joint training officer for education and training.
That's a long storied career, Dr. Seal. Thank you so much for your service. 25 years, that's awesome. And you went from being a drummer to being a nurse. And then I know you and I have talked offline about the many places that you've been and been involved with and participated in. So we're glad that you're here today, but also glad that you're with us at the college. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you for your service. Tanisha, let's talk about you. So you have a really interesting career track also in the military. Talk to us a little bit about what you did and how we got to talking about your career in the military.
Well, I started, I was a college student first. I've always wanted to join the Army, but parents that didn't attend college, it was go to college. So I got frustrated with college and joined the Army. So I joined, and then I was a 92 Yankee, which is a supply specialist. In going to Fort Bragg, I was recruited to be the unit armorer at that point.
So you were essentially the gunsmith for
Yes.
all the soldiers that are doing. That's an interesting field. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I was in charge of manning the ranges, troubleshooting weapons, small repair of the weapons if they had any type of jams, mishaps. I can do all of that. So I was in charge of over $5 million worth of weapons. So it was multiple M16s, multiple 9 mils, A1s,
So the
crew
full
serve
gambit.
weapons. Yes.
So for our viewing audience, if you've got an AR that needs some fixing, Tanisha might still be able to break it down and get it fixed. So, well, thank you for your service on both these items. Let's talk a little bit about what you both do at the college. So, Tanisha, I'm going to start with you. So, you are the primary point of contact for any veteran student that has questions about our academic programs, financial aid, the services that we offer. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what your program offers, and how many students you serve annually.
Perfect. So it's more than just the veterans. It's military-affiliated veterans and families.
Okay.
So it's all of that combined into one. So what I do is I ensure that they're on the right track for one, that they're not wasting their benefits, because some of them, depending on the time of exiting the military, their benefits have could run out.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that they're maximizing and getting the most for what they have. So I make sure they do that. I get them involved in any resources outside of here if they need any other additional support, scheduling. Ooh,
Advising, you also do
yeah,
advising on
I
their
do the advising
classes.
piece as well. I adopted that because at first this position did not do that.
And I guess part of that, Tanisha, as I understand it, is you don't necessarily have to be a veteran to serve the veterans, right? We've got great advisors, we've got
Right.
great faculty and staff, but because of your background in that unique space, they feel comfortable coming in to see
Correct.
you, and that's one part of it. I guess the other piece is there's a lot of rules and regulations and a lot of technical aspects to how we serve our veteran students and their families in that space. So you kind of got to be a jack of all trades to understand not just what happens at the college and how to get registered and advised and what classes to take, but you also got to understand the many, many layers of rules and regulations that come with, accessing those benefits that are provided through the service that was earned by these students. So I'm assuming that has a lot about why these students come to you. It's the knowledge,
Right.
but also your background. They feel comfortable talking to you about that.
Yes. And we have to do a lot of training. There's monthly SCO office hours just to keep us abreast of anything that's coming down through legislation, if any rules have changed, any laws
And
have
SEO
changed.
stands for
School certifying official.
Okay, yep, that's
So
right.
we have those monthly just to keep us updated because there are some things that changed for the Chapter 33 post 9/11 GI Bill.
So you're doing monthly personal development for yourself just to keep
Correct.
up with all the, So, for our viewing audience, Tanisha is an expert in these areas. So if you are a veteran and you're interested in coming to BC, she is your first point of contact. She's a great individual to connect with, very knowledgeable, has lots of information, and can help you navigate any questions related to those areas. Tanisha, thank you for working with our students. How many veterans are you serving? I mean, what's the population right now that we work with?
The population on campus right now, I'm averaging about between 1 and 130.
Okay.
But then there are the
Dependents and the
and then the
families and-
SAP.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the SAP.
That adds an additional, depending on, because that's a rotating door.
Yeah.
So that adds an additional 60,
And that's a great
70.
segue. So it's not just about the program that we have on campus as a department to serve our veteran students. What Tanisha just mentioned is a new initiative, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Seal. This was his brainchild, and I'll be honest with you, Dr. Seal, when you first came to me with this and you said, this is what we would like to do, and it sounded a little bit, out of range. I said, just let's see how it works. And then you guys have really delivered on this SAP program. Let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us what SAP is, and let's also talk a little bit about something that we call PLA, and there's a lot of acronyms here that we're using, but PLA stands for Prior Learning Assessment, and this is really important for veteran students because we can actually give them a lot of the credits that they need for their military service. So this program allows veteran students to come in and we take their military experience and apply college credit to that experience. That way they minimize the number of courses that they need to take before they get a degree. So Dr. Seal, did I capture that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Very well.
Let's talk a little bit about this SAP program that was your brainchild. And by the way,
Sure.
congrats on all the success that you're having in that.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Well, preceding that, there's a program in Texas called the College Credit for Heroes
Yeah.
program. And that is a grant-funded program out of the Texas Workforce Commission that actually originated out of the establishment of the Medical Education and Training Campus at Fort Sam Houston in Texas back in 2010. And as it turns out, I was actually the DoD action officer to help establish that with Governor Rick Perry at the time, so that there is a state program in place that actually funds mechanisms to recognize the rigor and quality of military education and training. And,
Okay.
in many cases, and especially in healthcare, you earn the exact same credential working for DoD as you would in the civilian sector. It's just people did not understand or recognize that. So starting in 2012, the state has been very supportive through the Texas Workforce Commission and the College Credit for Heroes program to fund ways for institutions to figure out how to better serve their veterans. because at the end of the day, and we'll talk more about this later, but when you come out of the military and you don't get recognized for your education and training and service, it's very demoralizing.
Sure.
And it has a lot to deal with. So we were able to build on the experience that I had with that program, procure a grant to fund it, and bring in the resources necessary to build a small team where we now will take a look at your military transcripts and every other record that you would have through your joint service transcript, any civilian transcripts you have, any credentials that you have, any apprenticeships that you have been through. And we take a look at that, and we use standard academic rules and regulations for award of credit hours. And so what we do with the SAP program, which a lot of people wonder what SAP stands for, it is not SAP. It stands for Systems, Applications, and Products in Data Processing, and it's an enterprise resource planning tool that serves 77% of industry on the globe.
So, Dr. Seal, let me ask this. So, for the viewing audience, what's important to understand here is that through this program, one, it's available in an online space, so it's flexible for students to take the courses.
Yes, sir.
It can be covered with their benefits, so they get to participate in this program. But the bigger benefit is this is with all of these credits that can be applied prior to even starting, a student may already have, or a potential student may already have lots of credits that could be built into their transcript based on their military experience, this whole
Yes, sir.
concept of prior learning assessment. So I know that you and I had talked briefly about a student that we worked with, and I think you had mentioned that they came in with some, was it 45 credits that they came in with in terms, what was the number?
Yes, sir. Well, we can accept up to, and any school can accept up to 75% of the total
Okay,
degree plan
75%.
attended elsewhere other than at Brazosport College. But yes, in terms of this program, it's actually a DoD and industry desired credential, that SAP credential. It's very in demand in industry. And they're already doing that training, and it's an existing contract program that we have partnered with out of Fort Cavazos. And they earn 10 semester hours of credit within our Associate of Applied Science degree plan for those studies. And what we're seeing through a prior learning assessment, while they're studying SAP, we're studying their records, and we run it through our prior learning assessment, and faculty looks at it and approves it. And if they agree with subject matter expert recommendations for award of credit, we actually award credit for their military education and training. And we're averaging about 40, a little more than 40 semester hours of credit beyond the 10 semester hours of credit that they're getting for their SAP training as well. In the case that you're speaking of was one of the degree plans that we elected to do proactively with our paramedic program. And in the state of Texas, the highest level of credentialing is an associate degree prepared paramedic.
Right.
So if you come to Brazosport College with a Texas paramedic credential in hand, the only thing that you will need to finish your associate's degree is the general education requirements, because the training is that rigorous, and our program requires 43 semester hours of credit in paramedic training. Well, that credit says you've already satisfied the National Registry and the state, so there is no need to replicate any of that training. And so we immediately...
That's something that they got while they were in the service.
Yes, sir.
They can come and apply it, and with just a few classes that they need to take on the gen ed side, the general
Yes, sir.
education requirements, 5 classes, I believe, is
Yes, sir.
the ballpark.
Exactly.
You take 5 classes that are paid for. They're online. You use your benefits through Tanisha's office, and somebody can essentially walk out of the college for the next graduation with a degree in hand after they've, put in the time and effort to take those other classes. But that's a great program. I remember back in the day, one of the biggest complaints that we would get from students that had served our country is they'd come out and they'd have all of this real world experience that, that they learned while in the service, but it was really hard to get the student to translate that experience to college credit. These kinds of programs make it much easier for a student who's or potential student, prospective student who's thinking about coming to Brazosport College. If you're a veteran and you've got military experience, come by our office and find out about this PLA, which is the prior learning assessment, so if we can figure out how many classes you've earned through your military experience. So, Dr. Seal, thank you for working on that program. That's been a tremendous asset in addition to the college, because now these students get access to this great education. It's covered by their benefits. It's online, and they get a whole bunch of credits when applicable through this PLA component. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
Tanisha, let me ask you this. So because you guys work in different spaces, but both serving veterans and their families in different capacities on campus, can you, either one of you, can you what's a time that a student walked in and said, "Hey, Miss Millender, I really need help with this." They come in, they don't have a roadmap, they need help either advising, or they're frustrated, or they're trying to figure things out. What's one way that you think your program has helped students?
That's a good question. It happens a lot, more so than not.
Yeah.
They come in with the military background, and a lot of them want to switch completely. So there's a totally different background, and they don't know where they want to land. So from that aspect is when I pull my resources in and contacts on campus and reach out to Jeff English in terms of career assessment, or Latanya Graham in terms of, hey, you have a resume, let's work
Let's
on your
get a good
federal resume, and maybe we could get your foot in the door. But if you're looking to go back to school, let's start with Jeff English and see kind of what your interests are and what your career goals are. From there, I put them in place with program chairs.
So you're
to
picking up the
say-
phone and calling on behalf of the
Yes.
student. Hey, Jeff, Latanya,
Yes.
Arnold, whoever the people are, because you've got those connections. So you're essentially, you're at the proverbial tip of the spear, trying to make the path forward for the students to remove
make it
any
as
obstacles.
easy, to make it as seamless as possible, and also to identify if there are any disabilities or anything that we need to be aware
Yeah.
of to make sure that the classroom setting is right for you, because most veterans don't self-identify. So I do have relationships with some of the instructors that if they enrolled in some of their courses, instructors reach out to me and say, hey, I have this student in my class, and then we can discuss ways to kind of help them navigate in those spaces.
Beyond being a technical expert in the areas regarding their benefits and their
Mm-hmm.
financial aid and advising, you're also there primarily, or a big part of your role is an advocate for these
Correct.
students. So
Mm-hmm.
you're the person, and I'll give you a great example for the viewing audience. I had a student reach out and said, "Hey, Dr. Solis, I'd like to talk to you about a situation that I'm dealing with one of the programs." I said, "Yeah, sure. Come on in." And through that discussion, he had mentioned that he had talked to you, and you referred him over, and we navigated that whole landscape that he was having challenges with. But it was because he had someone that was able to guide the path and said, "Look, here's the person that you need to talk to. Let's make the intro. Let's make the connection." So being that advocate is really important for our students. So if you're in the viewing audience and you have questions and you just kind of want to find more information out about the college, our programs, and the kinds of services that we have, come by and visit, talk to Tanisha, talk to Ms. Millender, and she will get you going in the right direction. And then we can make contacts with either Dean Seal or some of these other programs that we have. But let me ask both of you, so what do you think makes our programs unique in terms of how we serve our veterans? What makes it so special? Why are the students so connected to the programs? And I've seen this because you'll see the students out in the lobby and like, have you been served? Have you already met with someone? I'm going to wait for Miss Millender. Like they once you get that relationship going, or I want to talk to Dean Seal, it's a good thing, right? It's a good problem to have, that they feel connected to that individual that has a similar background, understands where they're at, can speak their lingo, right? So having those components make it a special part of the program. But what else makes our program that serves veteran students unique? Dean Seal.
Well, for me, I was that kid. I came in with nothing as an E1 with no degree and faced the system and all the challenges that you had to go up against, and was not smart enough to give up. So I forced the Navy to buy an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's and a doctorate for me. And it is no accident that my doctorate is in educational administration. So Seaman Recruit Seal used to think that the system isn't serving as well as it should, and Dr. Seal knows that it isn't. So having all of those experiences and having faced those battles myself and dedicating my career towards that was actually my job. My last 7 years as Joint Training Officer was to try to convince schools to better serve these veterans. So I have that level of training and experience that, quite honestly, nobody else has. There was only one person in DOD that ever had those responsibilities. That happened to be me. And I'm very passionate about it because I know the upside of education is transformational.
Yes.
The downside of it is equally transformational. So I know firsthand what it's like to experience those challenges of somebody not understanding that you, in fact, are qualified to do this, not only in peacetime, but in austere conditions when people are, when you're in harm's way. And if
I
you can
think
do your job when you're in harm's way, you can certainly do it during peacetime in the civilian sector.
right, and I think that having that voice with your unique skill set and your backgrounds and perspectives, I think it also lends to the students listening from that that they know that you've got their back.
Yes,
They
sir.
know that you're there as their advocate and will give them the tools that they need to be successful. Let me ask you this: what are the challenges that the students come in with? So you're working, Tanisha, the closest with the
Hmm.
students day in and day out. This is your population. What are the challenges that they're facing, and how do you help them overcome those?
Um, uh, the bulk of the challenge is financial,
Right.
so that's always a big issue. The financial aspect and also the mental health aspect. So those are our main two challenges. So to overcome the mental health aspect, that's a little easier than the financial, because there are resources out there that I can point them into. Like Val 22 allows them for 10 free sessions. All they need to do is submit a DD 214. That's it. And it's 10 free sessions for the veteran, for the spouse, and dependent. And that's all free. There's also a veteran resource center here locally that they can attend. They have weekly sessions, but it's more of a group. So a lot of times they need the individual. So I put them in that direction. For the financial piece, that's where the benefits come in.
That's
But
where
it's
your
kind of right, and
expertise. Yeah.
that's where we have to juggle because some of our newer programs are a lot online, and with the post 9/11
You gotta
benefit,
have
they
some
have to have
in-person
at least
piece.
yes,
Yeah.
and there's only 5 academic courses, and so I say let's stretch it out. We're going to just use one of these academic courses
Yeah.
per semester.
It's also navigating the maze, so to speak, because part of what's unique about the veteran services programs in both their areas is that going back to that concept, there's a lot of rules, a lot of
Mhm.
regulations, and you need someone that knows them so you can convey that to the students, say, to be in compliance, to receive these benefits, these are the things that you have to do. So
Right.
providing that roadmap is so
Mhm.
critical to the process, speaking the languages. Dr. Seal, what are some of the things that the students face in terms of adjustment if they're fresh out of the military and they're looking for a place to land in terms of their educational journey? What are some of the adjustment that students need to make in that process?
Well, it's a difficult challenge. I can tell you, I did it myself. I got mad, got out, swore I'd never come back when I was enlisted, and it's just an amazingly tumultuous time in your life. How am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to take care of my family? And you set foot on campus, having been world class in what you do, proven, battle tested, and you can't get the time of day. You have to start over. That's why so many people want to change careers completely. Is because they do not want to start over in their old career at the entry level, right? So they're looking for something else. And that's what's unique about our program. And it's also proactive is if we're waiting for people to get off of active duty before they tap into their benefits and before they start their program, they're way behind. And one of the things that we do, particularly with our SAP program, is we proactively engage the students while they're still on active duty, while they're already receiving their housing allowance.
Okay, so let's backtrack on that because that's an important piece to it. So, in many instances, when you're dealing with them, Ms. Millender, they are coming after those processes.
Mhm.
So they've already completed their service, they're out, they come to you. But in your instance, with this program you've developed, Dr. Seal, the students may actually still be in active military service. There's a
Yes,
distinction there.
absolutely.
So that's why you're able to serve students from all over, not just in geographic proximity to Brazosport College,
Yes, sir.
but your program is you got students from all over the world.
Yes, sir, we do. And it is a completely asynchronous online program at this point. We can offer it in many formats, but the one that's most easily accessible for the militaries is the asynchronous online.
Right.
And that is a huge advantage because it certainly, people don't realize this, but when you're on active duty, if you serve more than 90 days, you are a veteran. So you actually have access to all those veteran services that you would get after you get out, especially your education benefits. Use my GFL twice while I was on active duty. I was already getting that housing allowance, which if you study online, you don't necessarily get your full housing allowance. But if you're already on active duty, you can do that. So a lot of the things that we have done, SAP program is our flagship program, but we have another many programs in the queue where we are contacting the actual training centers in DoD to say, Did you know if you're a Navy construction battalion sailor, by the time you're an E5, you will have satisfied the technical requirements, lower division technical requirements of our Associate of Applied Science degree. All you will need is general education online. So while you're serving on active duty, there's another pot of money called tuition assistance. And if all you need is 5 gen ed classes online that are offered in 8-week sessions, you can be like our first paramedic student, show up in January, graduate in May.
See, that's where the secret to this is in terms of navigating these components. So to the viewing audience, we have got experts in this space. So Dr. Seal's career after the Navy and his military service was involved with educational program development for the military. And Ms. Millender has been doing the, on the ground work with our students for many years. So you've got these two experts that can help really demystify all of these rules, all these regulations, and get you to a completed degree much quicker using your benefits, using your prior learning assessments, all the things that you did in the military. All of those can be applied to the services in terms of getting access to your credentials. So, Dr. Seal, I wanted to thank you for putting that program together. Like I said, when you first proposed it, I'm like, well, let's try. Let's see if we got any takers. And now that we have an inverse problem, is that we've got a lot of people taking advantage of that program, but that's put some different kinds of strains on the programs that we'll talk a little bit about. But I wanted to segue into a conversation about, so when the students are either in the service active, or they, in many cases in your shop, Tanisha, they come in, they've already completed. Let's talk a little bit about career development, because to Dr. Seal's point, students may want to shift where they're at in their careers, how they're going to get to that next phase. It's not just about the education piece. What are some of the services that you have in terms of that resume writing, that interview preparation, internships, the things that will give students that experiential learning so that they can then get the tools they need to move into that next space? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So in terms of resume writing and mock interviews, how to dress, that's where I tap in with career services, with LaTanya and Jeff in their shop. I let them handle that part, especially with the resume.
So to just so we can kind of paint a picture for the audience, in the same way that you have these expertise in veteran services, these other individuals have these specific skill sets on how to develop these high-end, slick, very polished resumes that help people stand out. And they also have these what I think are really neat interviewing techniques that helps them stand out in interviews. So they're experts in those fields in the same way that you're experts in the fields of serving veteran students.
So also I like, depending on, because I have a lot of my students are in like instrumentation, P-Tech. That's where Jennifer Kenny comes in. So she and I work very closely together because I have a lot of veterans in there, because they have a lot of internship opportunities in those programs back there with her. So if there's some issues there, I kind of ask her, how are they performing in the class? Do you see anything
So you're
that I
also
need to point
checking
out?
up on them
Yes.
so you're helping them not only get in the program,
Mm-hmm.
but you're kind of, the mama bear, making
Yeah.
sure that, hey, you gotta
Yes.
you make sure you come into class.
Mhm.
Let's keep you eligible for these benefits that you're
Mhm.
receiving.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess that would be a different kind of relationship if it was me checking up on them versus you or Dr. Seal. I suspect that they would be like, hey, why is the president
Right.
checking up on me?
Well, they don't really know. It's behind the scenes.
Right.
But if it's something I need to reach out to them about, especially when they're applying, I ask her, do I have any veterans applying for any of these internships? Do we
So
need to
you're
set them up
kinda-
with
right.
any
You're-
career services so we can get them prepped and ready?
So you're doing that proactively. You're asking them,
Yes.
say, hey, which one of them, because these are your students, right? I mean,
Right.
they're the college's students, but you have that responsibility in both these programs to make sure that we are shepherding the path appropriately. So you're proactive in that approach. You're contacting and saying, hey, which one of my students are in this program or applying to this
Mhm.
program, so that then we can help them make sure that they do everything that they
Right,
need to
to
be
get it.
successful.
Mhm.
I love that. That's what makes us different at Brazosport College is individuals like Dr. Seal and Ms. Millender who are advocating on behalf of the students. I'm really proud of the work that they do, but these kinds of deeper level service pieces are what separate us from other institutions in terms of that care for the individual to ensure their success. Let me ask this follow-up question regarding, so we work very closely with our students in both of these programs. What about their families? So there are benefits that family members can also access. So if you're son, daughter, or dependent of a military person, there are also programs and benefits, more importantly, that they can access to help pay for school.
Mhm.
And let's talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about that. What are some of the components that you would recommend to students that were thinking of, if they're dependents, Dr. Seal, what are some of the things that you think would be important for them to be thinking about?
Well, the main thing that we have established recently, especially here at Brazosport College, is you have to think about what you're going to do with the rest of your benefit that you're going to have left over, because we have rapidly and markedly decreased the time and cost of completion. So it used to be you would have to use your GI Bill to figure out what kind of associate's degree you were going to get for yourself. But because of our advanced placement, because of our bachelor's degrees, because of our agreements with other institutions to do a 1+1 into graduate degrees, veterans now very often have to decide what graduate degree are you going to get and how much of your GI Bill are you going to give to your spouse or your children.
So also something that needs to be understood by the veteran who's going to be using those benefits potentially either for themselves and their family.
Yes, sir.
That's why it's so important to have someone who knows these programs, the rules and the regulations intimately, so that they can help these students or potential students navigate these pieces, because it's a complicated space that both of you live in. And I'm glad that both of you are experts in that area, because I know that there are lots of rules and regs, and it can be overwhelming for students. They come to campus, they're like, I got these benefits. I have no idea how to access them. Who do I talk to? That's why it's so, because I see them, that it's a first time student. They're sitting out and you can tell that they're nervous. I'm like, don't worry about it. Once you leave Ms. Millender or Dr. Seal's office, you're going to be good. By the time they come out of there, like, okay, they may not know everything that's happening, but what they know is I got somebody who's going to bat for me. And I think that's what separates the service level. So I guess for those individuals that want their children and dependents to use the benefits, what would be like a main point of advice? Or what would be something you'd tell them, like, hey, if you want to do this with your sons or daughters, here's the things that you need to know about using your benefit.
Number one, who the points of contacts are. Tanisha's fabulous. She knows those regs in cold very, very, very well. But also, what is it that you want? Use the other tools that are out there, because, we're all parents. We know what's best for our children, right? Well, that might not necessarily be
Right.
what is best for that child. So those services that we offer at the college are also available to family members. There is no reason why Jeff English wouldn't help someone's child that's maybe a dual credit student of ours that's still not quite sure where they want to go and what they want to do. And we have access to tools that we can show those people. Oh, well, if you go in and become a rad tech in the United States Navy, you're going to have a bachelor's degree after one enlistment. And
I guess it also helps, Dean Seal, if someone answers that call and they're like, it's Dean Seal calling on behalf of the student. It carries a little bit a different way, or it's Tanisha because of all the relationships you have on campus, so there's different ways to approach that. But
Sure.
the main message is they have an advocate here. They've got
Absolutely.
somebody who's going to champion their effort.
Well, not only was I the dean, but I went to boot camp.
That's right.
It-
So
you know,
you can relate.
I know what the earth looks like from a close distance, right? So we have all that in common. And that's the thing really that bonds all veterans is we've all been there, we've all done that. We know what it's like, we know what it's up against, and we know what it's like to face adversity and to rely on each other. Because when you train in DOD, you're not going to train somebody up that's going to go work at Walmart in the next town. You're training somebody up that's going to go with you into theater and into harm's way, and you're literally going to put your life into their hands and vice versa. So there's that bond and that connection that veterans have, and it just not in our DNA to leave someone behind.
Gotcha. That's a great way to put that. Let me ask about this community involvement. So once the students are here, there's organizations that they can be a part of, so that they can not only continue their educational journey, but be a part of something beyond just coming to class. Let's talk a little bit about that. So you're very involved with the community. You mentioned VOW a little while ago. Dean Seal, you want to go first on that item?
Sure. There are a number of veteran activities and related activities and other things that you would never think of that have a lot of veterans. And what people don't necessarily realize about our area is we have some very large reserve bases in Houston. And so people from our community join the reserves and then they come home. So there's church groups that are out there, lots of veterans. Kenny Ressiker, is a veteran. He's involved in multiple community things. I know he's involved with his church. He's involved on the campus. He's involved in Habitat for Humanity. He's you name it. I mean, just do a quick web search.
There's more than just coming to class.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's the whole Veterans Administration. They get a bad rap, but I'm here to tell you, I have gotten great service out of the VA in terms of healthcare. We have, because I'm a disabled veteran myself, we have a clinic here in town. And if I have trouble getting into that clinic, I can get authorization to be seen here locally, or I can drive an hour up the road to Houston and get, world class care. So that, again, part of it being veterans that live in this community, we understand and can help people that are coming to this community or that have been in this community for a while and now are reservists coming home for the first time that, oh, hey, I've got an appointment on Thursday to see, at the local VA clinic.
Right.
How did you do that? Let me show you how to use BenEFits online. Let me show you that VA system.
Going back to that, it's good to know someone that has the knowledge and the background in all, because it is a complicated space. I mean, that's one thing that I do hear from students is that, especially as you're first getting started with the integration back into non-military life, it can be a complicated environment in terms of all the rules, regulations, and these are benefits that these students have earned, and they sacrifice to get these benefits. So we want them, to your point, Tanisha, to maximize everything that they've got coming to them because of what they've earned, and also getting that education. You talked about the benefits of getting the educations and the outcomes of someone who has that credential, that degree, the things that they can move into. What's next for the program? So you guys are doing a lot of great work. What's next? What's on the horizon? I mean, what other programs are you going to bring, Doc, that you're going to come up with this idea and say, hey, I've got an idea? I mean, what's next? What do you guys see over the next several years?
Well, we're rapidly expanding it, as you know. The demand is there, and that's just with our one program out of one location.
And how many cohorts do you have now? 3?
Yes, sir. Getting ready to start our 4th cohort.
Oh, a 4th cohort. So I remember when Dean Seal came to us, I said, Doc, if you could get 20 students out of the year, I think that'd be a home run. And now all of a sudden we're dealing with 4 cohorts, and it's a great problem to have. I really enjoy the fact that we are providing services to our veterans and getting them a really great education at Brazosport College. So that program, Dean Seal, has really it's just grown by leaps and bounds in less than a year's time. I've been really floored by the response. So I hope that it continues to grow and that we continue to provide those.
Well, that's the plan, sir. That's one program at our first base. We're getting ready to roll out another program called ServiceNow, which is a business enterprise automation platform, much like ASP, but more about that specific processes, not so much the data processing.
Right.
That's hugely in demand. That's
so another opportunity for students to,
yes, sir, except with twice as many students for the annual throughput for that program.
Well, I look forward to seeing that enrollment on our rosters. But I know that also puts a lot of pressure on your end, Tanisha, because so for those of you that are looking at the podcast and hearing the messaging, we're in the process of expanding the service component in Tanisha. So you want to talk a little bit about that from you're going to need to add folks to help support the growth in this program. Because what's the requirement, Tanisha? It's
1 SEO per 150.
So you need another Tanisha for every 120 to 150 students. You need another Tanisha.
Another one, and then on top of that, with the amount of growth, puts me at target for more audits.
I got you.
And
audits are always fun, right?
Yes,
always fun.
And part of it is so you all have to keep up with not just what's happening with the students, but you have to make sure that every single one of those students that are in that program are in compliance to receive those benefits that they've earned. But there's a lot of nuance that comes with it. So that means that you got to take care of all these records and make sure that and by the way, the last audit, we got some really great comments from the auditor who was visiting. He was very complimentary of the program and was very complimentary of your work. So we were very pleased to hear that. So for the viewing audience, you'd be in really great hands with either one of these individuals advocating for you as the people that support our Veteran Services program. So let's look forward to hiring that next person to help support. I know that you'll welcome that because
yes, we actually got her approved. We have a new an additional SEO. I actually got her approval letter this morning right before coming here.
Okay, so now we'll have she's going to be in a learning mode for a while.
So right now, once I return back to the office, we're turning on the training mode to get her acclimated to the systems and just to get her in, because the best way to train is to get in there and do it.
Let me ask this, Tanisha, and also for you, Dean Seal. Let's talk about your philosophical outlook on serving veterans. For both of you, this is deeply personal. This isn't just you guys show up at a job and you're doing what you got to do to make sure that we're providing services. Because of your backgrounds, what's your philosophy on things like open door policies, or how do students get a hold of you to come in? If somebody shows up at your door, and obviously if you're working, if you're in a meeting or something, that's a little bit different. But if you've got time, students come in and say, "Hey, Ms. Millender, I've got a question," or "Dean Seal, I got a question." Do you guys take the time to visit with those
Yes.
students?
So I don't really, unless the student specifies I need an appointment, I'll put them down as an appointment, but it's pretty much
You're open.
I'm open.
That's your ethos. Your ethos is we're here to serve the students, and if you're available, they
Mhm.
get great service.
Absolutely.
Dean Seal, same for you?
Yeah, open door policy and walking around campus, you see someone and you can see a veteran a mile off. You know,
Yeah.
if you are one, you know who they are, and you can I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to talk with them. I'm going to ask them what program they're in, and oftentimes they're surprised to find out that I'm their dean.
Yeah.
I normally don't wear a tie when I walk around campus.
Yeah, I'm shocked
So-
today, Dean. I will be honest with you, but it's good to see you in a tie, sir.
Yeah, and the
That's
haircut
good.
kind of gives it away too. And then you
Yeah.
talk up, you walk up and you start talking, and they understand that you're a veteran, and then they happen to find out after the fact that you're actually their dean too.
That's it.
But we were that person, and that's who we are. That's where we come from, and so that's really it's a philosophy, but it's actually a lived experience.
Right.
And you just don't walk away from that.
And, we're proud of the service that we offer our students across the college, and it's not just for our veterans. I think that being that we're a small, very personalized institution, even I have an open door policy for any community member, any student. If I'm available, I absolutely visit with them. And I think that holds true for pretty much anybody, any of our administrators. But I think what sets both of you apart is not just that shared experience that you're going to have with them, but the expertise. And I think that for students that are considering another institution, I think you'll be hard-pressed to find the level of openness that we have on campus, and your accessibility to Dean Seal, your accessibility to Ms. Tanisha. It just, I think that that's what sets BC apart. And I want to thank both of you for all the work that you do in this space and your commitment to making sure that we just not provide great service, but commitment to making sure that our veteran students are successful when they're Brazosport.
Well, sir, if I could, this doesn't happen without supportive leadership. And I say that from a
Right.
position of experience. My job with DOD the last 7 years was to travel around the country and talk to chancellors, university systems, college presidents, vice presidents, deans, chief academic officers to lay out these programs before them to try to convince them to adopt these programs. And I have literally placed thousands of credential and degree pathways in place at hundreds of schools in every region of the U.S., and not one of them, they've all done a fraction of what we're currently doing here at Brazosport College. So on behalf of veterans everywhere, thank you for your open-mindedness and willingness
Absolutely.
to step up and do what is ever necessary.
Yeah, whatever we need to do for our veterans. And thanks to our board, because when we had to get this approved through our board.
Yes, sir.
And we've got a lot, actually, all of our board members are just really committed to serving our students and our veterans, because when we took this program and we explained that, they're like, yeah, let's do it. So it just kind of everything came together at the right time to make sure that we got all of these kinds of services for our students. So I want to thank both of you for everything that you do. Tanisha, thank you for your service and for making sure that our students have that access, someone to talk to, someone to connect to. Same for you, Dean Seal. Thank you for being innovative. Thank you for being proactive and making sure that our students have options to access their benefits and continue their educational career path. And thanks for being here today. This was a great conversation. So with that said, members of the audience, we always close out the podcast with what is the college president reading, and in line with some of the discussions that we had today about all the things that veterans do to ensure that the United States, the greatest country on the planet, continues to hold its place in history and on the world stage. One of the things that I've been reading recently is The End of the World is Just the Beginning by Peter Zehan, and this is a fascinating look at globalization, demographics, the changes that are happening on the world stage. It's not a light read, but it is a fascinating read and perspective on how the world is changing and the place that the United States has within it. So, Mitch, Dr. Seal, and Tanisha, We close out by thanking you for your service, for your commitment to our students, and thank you for doing a really great job at Brazosport College.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay? Thanks for being here.